Well, hello and welcome to the next Daily Dominion. And at first, I have to apologize for not uploading in the past 2 days. I've just been way too busy, coming home too late, and not in a position to sacrifice my sleep for recording silly videos. But today, I have found the time again, and I'm excited to play this with you. And yeah, for disclaimer, I booted up this kingdom on the train this morning and already played through it very quickly, and it was fun, and thus I think we'll have a blast again here. I very rarely do this, but sometimes at kingdoms that look fun, I cannot stop myself when I have a spare minute. But yeah, let's see and let's look at what this kingdom has in store for us. As always, I'll begin by going through the cards one by one, and if you're not interested in that, you can skip to the next timestamp. And we have Lookout, a seaside card giving +1 action. Then you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, trash one of them, discard one, and put the other one on top of your deck. And Lookout can be quite the fine card, quite the fine thrasher, but especially in the early game when you just want to get rid of your estates usually. But unless you have some way of setting it up, it becomes it usually becomes a real liability in the later shuffles, as you have no control what the next few cards in your deck are, and if there are 3 really good cards that you would like to keep, and you reveal them, then Lookout tells you, well, you gotta trash one of them, too bad. But yeah, also it has a problem of being a bit swingy with the first 2 shuffles, because it's a huge difference of finding it in your turn 3 or turn 4 hand, and also whether the shuffle trigger in turn 4 is meaningful or not. Like, yeah. Anyways, I don't want to get into too much detail, but it's sometimes a swingy trasher. Usually you're happy if there are others. Night Watchman. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, discard any number, and put the rest back in any order. And Night Watchman is gained to your hand. So this is a way to set up your next turn, sometimes relevant, sometimes utter garbage. And like most of the games it's utter garbage, but sometimes it has its spots where you can set up a nice next shuffle, especially in the context of Shepherd. Because Shepherd is a draw card, saying +1 action, and discard any number of victory cards, revealing them, +2 cards per card discarded. So with Shepherd, you actually use the Lookout if you get it to just trash down your coppers and keep your estates in deck, because combined with Shepherd they can be draw. But yeah, Shepherd decks usually suffer from the problem of being very, very dependent on draws, even more so than your usual village smithy engine. Especially like picture a hand where you have 2 shepherds and your payload cards, and then a hand full of 4 estates and another payload card, whatever. Then you're really sad. So shepherd really likes cards that can give it some control or some setup. And one of the best ways to set up shepherds is using Cobbler, because Cobbler can gain a card to your hand at the start of your next turn. It's a night card, so it doesn't cost an action, but it also costs 5. But having like a Cobbler sandwich, playing 1 Cobbler every other turn to provide you with shepherds or even estates, whatever you need at the moment, whatever is better for your coming turn, is really a nice synergy. Like one of my favorite Inception synergies of Nocturne. And also here we have Warehouse, which also is nice to set up Shepherd, because Warehouse has +3 cards, +1 action, and then discard 3 cards. And then imagine you have like 3 Shepherds in your, or 4 Shepherds in your deck. Play a Warehouse at the end of your shuffle after already having put a lot of green cards into your discard, playing other Shepherds. And you discard 1 or 2 Shepherds into the shuffle, trigger that shuffle, and have an amazing start of the next turn. So Warehouse can help with that. But even more support for Shepherd comes in the form of Blockade, actually. Blockade says gain a card costing up to 4, setting it aside, and then at the start of your next turn you put it into your hand. And while the card is set aside, when another player gains a copy of it on their turn, they also gain a curse. So with Blockade, you can, I don't know, blockade Shepherds, for example, which disincentivizes your opponent from gaining them, but also you will gain it or pick it up at the start of your next turn, get it to your hand, and then discard that juicy green. And yeah, nice synergies here. Also note Lookout and Warehouse. You can of course use this discard 3 cards at the end of your turn when you've drawn deck to just pick up one of them to trash and one of them to top deck. Also a decent synergy. Then we have Island. Put this and the card from your hand onto your island mat, costing an action to play, and then it's worth 2 victory points. Not super notable. We have Necromancer. Choose a face-up, non-duration action card. So non-duration is important. Blockade, for example, wouldn't be possible. Action card from the trash. Turn it face down for the turn and play it, leaving it there. So this means that the trash starts with 3 zombies already. One that trashes action cards for extra cards, one that trashes the top card of your deck, and one that can inspect the next card on top of your deck. So these kind of work in synergy if you have 2 Necromancers. And yeah, Necromancer becomes very versatile in the later stages of the game if you or your opponent have put other valuable action cards to play into the trash. But until then, it's like a decent card. We finally have, well, not finally, but almost finally, have Cursed Village, which is a village giving +2 actions, and then you draw until you have 6 cards in hand. So if you draw it from a hand of 5, then of course it's amazing because it's 2 actions and 2 cards. But also it costs 5, and when you gain this, you receive a hex. And hexes are those really nasty things that can happen to you and can diminish the returns of your turn. I'll just scroll through them very slowly so you can in principle pause the video. Some of the nastiest ones here might be war, trashing your gainers like Blockade or the Shepherds. Locusts can also be annoying, and junking in general, of course. And also the hand size reduction is not great, but there's haunting or fear or what's it called, poverty, which has you discard down to 3 cards in hand. But of course, if you gain the Cursed Village at the end of your turn, where you don't have that many cards in hand anyways, then it doesn't matter. Where these hexes might matter a lot is when Vampire deals them out. Vampire says each other player receives the next hex. Gain a card costing up to 5 other than a vampire. Exchange the vampire for a bat. And that means, yeah, well, it's a hex giver, a 5-cost gainer, can gain cobblers, cursed villagers, and duchies, and no other vampires. But then also it exchanges itself for a bat, and the bat is a 2-cost card that says trash up to 2 cards from your hand. If you trashed at least one, you exchange this for a vampire. So you only get the bonus from vampire every other shuffle, and you only get the trashing from bat every other shuffle. So it's rather slow trashing and rather slow 5-cost gaining, but it's something, and you should keep it in mind for sure. That wraps up the discussion of the kingdom, and yeah, it was actually quicker than I imagined for a Nocturne Kingdom, but only 9 minutes. But let's look at the kingdom plot, and I think this is the first time actually since I've introduced those buy or no plus buy or sometimes plus buy thingies on those kingdom plots where we actually don't have plus buy, where the marker tells us something amazing. Well, yeah, when we look at this kingdom, there is no plus buy whatsoever, so you're going to buy at most one card per turn. But as you can see, the gain part of the kingdom plot has a bulge because there's a bunch of stuff to gain. There's Blockade, Cobbler, Vampire. What else? Yeah, maybe those 3, but those 3 are really strong gainers, and thus the gain part has this nice little bulge. And that also means that, I mean, you cannot gain more than 1 province per turn here. well, unless you remodel one using Necromancer into the other, but you can gain a bunch of 4 and 5 cost cards per turn, and you should go for that, I think. Also, there's thinning, there's draw, there's village. Looks like you can build an engine. The engine here is very focused on the best draw possible, and actually the only really reliable draw possible, which is Shepherd. Like, what kind of other draw would I think? Well, Cursed Village draws a tiny bit if you then can reduce your hand size. So you could go for like a strange golden deck thingy, but it doesn't synergize well with having knight cards and treasures and victory cards in hand. And it also doesn't synergize at all with stuff like Cobbler or Blockade putting cards into your hand at the start of turn. So Cursed Village draw is going to be garbage here. However, yeah, Shepherd looks amazing, is amazing, especially with this reliability. So now the question is, what are we going to open in order to go for like a nice, well-oiled Shepherd engine? And the idea is, of course, for a Shepherd engine to have a Blockade and a Cobbler out each turn to provide you with new Shepherd and estates, to have a Warehouse in deck to maybe set up the next shuffles in the late game when Shepherds get low, to have vampires to gain you a few cobblers early and duchies, and also you using the bats to trash out. I think we're skipping lookout because you don't need to be super quick about the trashing, and the bats might really be enough. And also in a later part of the game, we're going to be happy to have a few spare coppers for them to feed to the bats. So opening wise, I think on the 4-3 it's pretty clear that you open. Actually, let me drag that down. I think the kingdom is a little smaller because a little bigger because it doesn't have landscape cards here. Yeah. So opening wise, where was I? Blockade Silver. Yes, why Blockade Silver? Well, you could also go Blockade Lookout, but you should open Blockade for sure. It's a great card, a really strong card, also in the context of Shepherd. On the 5-2, I think these openings are pretty equivalent strength-wise, because Blockade, well, it can gain other blockades early on and disincentivize your opponent from even getting the first. And while Vampire, of course, is great to, well, gain a 5 cost, like a Cobbler early, to get the bat in, to try and start trashing, but you're going to be slower in setting up your draw with Shepherd Blockade stuff. So I think these openings should be rather equivalent in strength level, just with different foci. And the hope with the 4-3, of course, is like why do we go for silver, and why not something like Warehouse that would also benefit us in the long term? Is that with the silver we have a shot at hitting 5 early for a Vampire or a Cobbler. I'm not super sure which to get first. I think Vampire is better early, opening Vampire is usually pretty amazing, but there could be an argument for Cobbler as it allows you to really flexibly look at the start of your turn. Anyways, that concludes the discussion of the kingdom cards of the opening. So let's head into playing this one. One could even think about buying a state here. I actually saw someone on the Discord channel suggesting that. And while that is cute, like getting to open a state, I believe it's not as good here because it's gonna be quite some time until you get the Shepherd in. Like the Vampire, I think at first is gaining a Cobbler, and the first 4 should be a Blockade over Shepherd, unless a Blockade is blockaded. So yeah, that estate just slows your early shuffles down. Oh, and what I didn't mention in the kingdom discussion, of course, is that Pasture is coming with the Shepherd as an heirloom, so you have another victory card amongst your starting cards. The AI does go for Blockade Silver indeed, and we nicely get to pick up Blockade here, get to hex the AI, and Delusion is actually pretty amazing, unless AI hits 5. Yeah, because it has to skip its turn, but it maybe only had two money anyways. And here, now with 3, we could either go silver to get to get a bit money in, but also I think warehouse doesn't look too bad. And here, well, we just skip our turn and our buys, thin out 2 coppers. We do need to be careful to not get too much our blockade bottom decks, to not get too thin in the, concerning money. But I think we're still alright. Of course, this blockade bottom decking is really, really bad. We would love to have that in hand right now, especially if AI gets to Blockade Shepherd. Yeah, it gets to Blockade Shepherd. So that's pretty awful. But I think at this point we do need to get in our first Shepherd. We also have trashed 2 coppers, and we can blockade in order to do some of that stuff. Now here we have the next real decision. Do we want to put in the second Cobbler or another vampire at this point? What does this want to be? I actually think because this kingdom is so low on gains, and since we just took the curse, I don't think the other vampire is all too bad. And AI already goes province. Now here we start by playing the warehouse, I think. And then probably, yeah, entirely skip our turn. That's okay. Next turn we're going to have an amazing one with the Shepherd coming in, the Cobbler coming in, and yeah, we get to trash one of AI's Shepherds, which is really good. We get to put in yet another Cobbler, and we get to get rid of AI's Shepherds there. That was really good. Like, AI doesn't have any Shepherds left in its deck, and will thus move through it rather slowly. Yeah, what else do we want to gain here is the question now. I think another Cobbler could be a consideration. I actually don't dislike that. Yeah, why not go ham on the Cobblers? This kingdom is suited for it, I think. So here, at the start of our turn, we can put the Shepherd into hand, and now either gain an estate or an island. It really doesn't matter. Both are worth 2 victory points. And island one could maybe even play to get rid of one of the coppers in the later game, but usually you want to go for blockade over it. Anyways, but we have this draw, which means that next turn is going to be a bit of a doozy. So not a great draw in my book. But yeah, we just want to keep want to start getting the gain train going. So another Cobbler it is. And here we're actually going to play this Shepherd first, just because otherwise we don't really have the hand size to support the warehouse stuff. Maybe we'll draw into some nice stuff here. Oh well, it's nice enough. There's the question of what do we discard now. I think actually the bat can go, and yeah, let's keep the bat. I mean, could also think about just discarding one of those cobblers. Play this bat to thin the copper to have a vampire in deck again. I think that might be better actually. Even though our next turn might be a bit worse, but we have all this green just shuffled in. So yeah, if we set aside a Shepherd now, shouldn't be too scared to take this curse. I think we should be good. And buys, get this bat to suck on the copper, to turn back into a vampire, and this vampire trashes a province. Okay, that's a point swing of 3. That's pretty nice. But yeah, what does this vampire want to gain? We could go for a cursed village and say we want to play with 2 blockades each turn. But actually, I don't think we need to. I think, yeah, just going for duchy already to catch up a bit on the point situation would be good. And get to put this in hand. Get to discard a whole lot of cards. Blockade another. Now at this point, yeah, let's just blockade a shepherd. I think that's good. We can buy another cobbler. Are we that greedy? Yeah, let's just be that greedy. If we put 3 in play now, we'll hopefully put the other 2 in play the next turn, and we're going to have an amazing time. So we have this shepherd, so we can gain this island, gain an estate. Let's not lower the islands all too much yet. And yeah, first play this. There's another shepherd in there, so we can play the warehouse after having increased our hand size. Yeah, there are actually a bunch of shepherds still in there. So like this. Amazing. We get to do the trick where we discard, well, we discard 1 shepherd. And, well, probably not the best execution of that trick. I should have counted my cards better, but we do get to top deck either green card or the shepherd. Nice. No, actually 2, of course we discarded 2, so we have 2 green cards and the shepherd on top decked. And that means we are pretty safe to even pick up green for the next turn. Yeah, but well, why not go for this good stuff? For even more shepherd, for even more reliability. Let's buy a duchy, trash this curse, and gain another duchy. And already we're catching up in points, and it's like only turn 12. And we have a super reliable deck, while the AI, I mean, also has a deck, I guess, but yeah, actually there's a consideration of gaining that island here to get a curse in to feed to our bats. Because I mean, hopefully we're going to draw, but with 2 shepherds in the starting hand and so much green in our deck, I'm fairly confident. And now, yeah, we get to do the warehouse stuff, get to discard 2 shepherds and an estate. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. 5 green cards that we can discard here. Of course, it's not optimal that we discard the pasture, because we maybe want to hit 5 to buy the last duchy with the like buy 1 duchy, gain last duchy with the vampire to have the win in hand the next turn. So actually, let me think about this. Let's just discard this and 2 green cards, and then we can discard first discard those cards. I think that's better to have the money at hand. And now discard those cards, and unless we exactly draw the shepherd, we're pretty good. Well, unless we exactly draw the shepherd, but so now, well, we can of course just put the shepherd, set the shepherd aside, and yeah, we should like, can the AI realistically pile is the question. It does have the blockade coming in, but it doesn't have any other gains, right? That's the question. Is there a way for AI to win if I take the last 2 duchies? It doesn't have a cobbler in play. It has 1 more blockade, which it could use to blockade an island, but okay, we don't care. No, I think we're safe taking the last 2 duchies, also trashing out that curse. Now, yeah, let's take the last duchy. It's even envious, so its gold and silvers are not going to do it much. And this would look like a really, really scary hand, and had we not had that shepherd coming in. But instead we get to pick up all of those funky islands, or states, it really doesn't matter, and get to trigger the shuffle of our dreams. I mean, we could end the game here, but let's play this through. Draw our deck once, because I'm so bad at deck tracking that I need to see it all at once in my hand, and then we can, of course, play this blockade, play the silver to buy another estate, play the bat to get rid of those pesky coppers. We never wanted those anyways, and the vampire can gain us yet another estate, and there we've won without buying a single province. Having 47 points. Yeah, especially with Island here being some supplementary points, you really don't need to strive for that treasure-heavy deck. I mean, of course, I overdid it in the end with the copper trashing, but yeah, I really like this kingdom. I really like those sorts of kingdoms where you get to utilize Shepherd in a satisfying way, where you get to set up your next turn each time in a very nice fashion. Maybe I could have used one more warehouse, and of course I didn't have the optimal draws in the beginning, like that blockade bottom decking set us back by a turn, I think. But yeah, the Cobbler spam is strong here. Shepherd, blockade, island, do the fun stuff. Don't go for the lookout stuff. That only causes sadness. Maybe we could have gone for a Necromancer or two, but why do that if we have a deck full of Shepherds? And yeah, also notable is that with the Cobblers we had, we could have easily also gained silvers in order to hit province, but yeah, with single buy, who needs provinces anyways? So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video out of my little different environment here, as I've been traveling the past few days. And I will try to catch you in the next one. I cannot guarantee that I will manage the daily uploads in the next few days. Let's see. But yeah, as always, I'll try to. And with that, I'll say goodbye.